My name is Caleb Stone. I'm a transportation advocate, a rail fan, a plane spotter, and I'm training to become a pilot. The only problem here is I have autism and I'm on medication, which unfortunately both are disqualifying which unfortunately both easily disqualify you. I was diagnosed with autism when I was 2 years old. I've had to face ableism my whole life. For those who don't know what that is, ableism is a form of discrimination that targets people with disabilities. People with mental disabilities are more likely to encounter ableism because physical disabilities you're able to see. Mental disabilities you're not able to see except for the symptoms. And I take medication to help, to treat those symptoms, and it's working. And out of all the ableist encounters, this was the worst ableist encounter I've ever had. I applied for a Class 3 medical certificate in November 2021. That was for me to become a pilot. I got denied a month later. My doctor and I submitted an appeal, but yet again, I got denied. I have that letter from April 3rd, 2022. And that letter broke my heart. I'm going to read it. I'm going to read some of it to you out loud. Dear Mr. Stone, consideration of your application for Airman Medical Certification and report of medical examination completed on November 4th, 2021 discloses that you do not meet the medical standards as prescribed in Title 14 of the Code of Federal Regulations, CFR, Section 67, specifically under paragraphs or sections 67, 107C, 109B, 113C, 207C, 209B, 213C, 307C, 309B, and 313C. Medical standards and certification due to your history of autism spectrum disorder, major depressive disorder, which came along with my autism, and generalized anxiety disorder, which also came along with my autism, along with the use of the aromatically unacceptable medications. Your application for issuance of an Airman medical certificate is hereby denied. This was the worst ableist encounter that ever happened to me in my life. Am I angry at the FAA? No. Am I going to file a lawsuit against the FAA? No. Am I disappointed? Yes, and rightfully so. Am I devastated? You bet I am. Do I have a broken heart? Yes, I do. I have a broken heart. I've had enough of ableism. I'm angry about the ableism that's occurring in this country. I'm not angry that I got denied. I'm just disappointed that I got denied. But I am angry about the ableism that's happening around the world. It needs to change. And the FAA, sadly, is ableist. My dream was to become a pilot. It all began when the COVID-19 pandemic hit. My dream was to hopefully become a train engineer. But sadly, when the COVID pandemic hit, that was uncertain. Nothing was ever the same pre-COVID. Then I went on Flight Simulator. I was flying planes and I'm like, wow, I wonder what that's like in real life. But little did I know about was this policy. When I found out, I felt like I was slapped in the face. I was devastated. It's just appalling. I mean, if you look at Australia, there's a man out there, there's actually a man in Australia with autism who ended up becoming a pilot. And let me tell you, I hope he's watching this video because I'm cheering for him. I want to cheer. I have this message for him. Keep it up. Keep it up. Canada is also doing the exact same thing. Not only is Australia doing this, Canada is doing that. Allowing people with autism and those who are taking medications to fly an airplane. But here in the United States, they are immediately disqualified. And for me, it hurt. My hopes were dashed in a flash. I don't think I've ever been this broken in my whole life. Whenever I think of aviation, I'm empowered. And the reason why I'm empowered is because aviation is the most amazing thing. And speaking of which, we were the first country. We were actually the birthplace of aviation. In 1903, when the Wright brothers created the first airplane in Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, little did people know at that time that we were going to have flying machines flying all over the world. And look where we are now. 121 years later. 121 years later. 2024. If the Wright brothers were still alive to this day, I bet one of them would be saying, it's time to let people with disabilities and those who take medications start flying airplanes. And the time is now. This is America. And this policy, unfortunately, is violating the 14th Amendment. I never really talk about this, but it's to allow Americans to live freely and happy without government oversight. But this policy is a ban. This policy is a ban, and not only is it a ban, it is a violation of the 14th Amendment. And the FAA, sadly, is ableist. I didn't want to believe it. But it was real. So here's my message to the FAA. I am not angry. I'm disappointed. And change needs to happen to federal regulations. I spoke to my congresswoman, I spoke to my senators about this, and it really, really needs to change. Discrimination is a huge problem, and it really needs to stop. All forms of discrimination. And ableism is discrimination that people need to know about. Look, I can understand where you're coming from with this policy. And I understand safety comes first. And I understand you're trying to be ultra careful. But this current policy, unfortunately, is the number one reason why the majority of pilots are having mental health crises. I mean, the more pilots start taking medication, since actually there's no evidence that these medications impair a pilot's mind. If we allow pilots with medication to fly aircraft, we would be safer than we are right now. Much safer. And not only that, this ban is is actually, I think, is the number one reason why there's a pilot shortage here in the United States. And it's because of that. So please take this into consideration. So this is something, yeah, this is huge and it really needs to change. That's all I have to say. Thanks for watching.